Hello everyone and welcome back to a new Star Wars Empire at War video. And this video is going to be similar to a recent one I uploaded about the CIS Remnant playable faction that was coming to R3D2 Forces of Corruption in 3.0. Well, after I released that video, I found some other models and ships and I got thinking. There are a lot of cool stuff that I found that I could do in Empire at War with the modding capability that I have acquired over the short time I've been modding. But there are so many ships, and I just wanted to have them in the game because I thought they were cool. And along with other features like new factions as well. So I'm happy to announce that the CIS Remnant is not the only new playable faction that will be coming in 3.0. I actually have two other factions currently, two factions in development. The CIS Remnant, of course, and the one I'm going to show you today. And also it's possible that a third new faction may be coming in 3.0. However, that one is quite far off and is possibly not until afterwards. This faction that I'm going to be showing you right now is the Independent Forces. Now, the Independent Forces are similar to what a lot of people would think from, say, Thrawn's Revenge. In Thrawn's Revenge, or Empire War Remake, as you can see here, the Independent Forces are just a filler. They're used as a way to add defenses to a planet that wouldn't make sense to have, say, Imperial units or New Republic units. But my Independent Forces will be different. They will be used like that sometimes, but they're also a playable faction that also adds more customization to the game. The reason for this is that it is entirely blank. It has no unique units of its own. But the thing is that it can acquire additional units by building specific structures and capturing specific planets. For instance, if it controlled Kuat, it could build Imperial units like the Imperial Star Destroyer. This allows you to build up your own faction however you want it to be. And this also means that I can bring in other factions that won't have their own units and stuff per se, but like the Hapens, which probably won't ever happen, but Hapens can get some representation in this mod, even though they won't actually appear, at least not for the immediate future. Their units could show up in the Independent Forces. Now, my point about this is that making a custom faction that you can make it however you want, as opposed to having all these different factions and everyone not being exactly what you want. In addition to this, the Independent Forces also have the ability to build ships and mercenaries and basically any unit, not just ships, any unit from any faction, and even some units that are not available to any other factions, which I'll show you now. This is accomplished primarily through the ship market, and no, not the ship market from Thrawn's Revenge. This is a different mechanic, although it follows the same basic principle. It does have a capital here, but this icon is just a filler because I use the CIS Remnant as the basis for this faction. It's at least this capital. It's good. Anyway, so the capital does the same thing, and you kind of need that to get money. And also, this is not going to be its starting planet. It'll start on another random planet. I just wanted to put it here just for demonstration purposes. The ship market will unlock new ships and units based on what planet you control, as well as having a set roster of ships you can get. So the ship market is important. There's also a barracks that will allow you to recruit mercenary soldiers, but they're just the grenadiers from Zon Consortium, and then an officer academy to let you recruit fleet commanders. However, that's not really essential right now, and a diplomat unit to remove corruption, of course. And space station. So you might notice that I am at a level 1 space station, but the boarding shuttle is the only thing being built that can be built. Well, this is on purpose because, as I said, this faction has no units that are strictly for this faction in the sense that it can be built only by this faction. Now, I'm at level 2 space station and can't build anything. Well, that's because we don't have a ship market. But when the ship market finishes, massive roster increase. But what you might notice is that all these ships are generic. They're not ships that are only owned by a particular faction, like the Corellian Corvette, Corellian Gunship, Marauder, Hammerhead, Interceptor 4, Nebulon B, and Dreadnought Heavy Cruiser. and the Y-Wings and Z95s, all this stuff is available to every other faction at some point. Now, the Invincible class heavy cruiser is unique to the Independent forces currently, but I plan to add it to some other factions that will come eventually. And this is pretty much it. These are the ships that you will have regardless of what planet you can control. But you don't have to have any of these. If you control, like I said, if you control Kuai, you can have unique units like Imperial Star Destroyers, as I will show you. As I said, the Independent forces have no truly unique units, as most of these units are available to other factions, with the exception of the Invincible class heavy cruiser. But these ships are also not very weak either. These ships are all fairly powerful. They're just ones that pretty much everyone can get a hold of. And although there are others, and there are some very powerful ships this faction can get a hold of, even getting control of Executor class dreadnoughts and maybe other superstar destroyers if they control Kuat or certain other planets, they will like I said, their faction depends entirely on what planets you control, with the exception of these generic units from the ship market. All the ships are fairly powerful for their size, with the exception of the Invincible class dreadnought being fairly weak for its size. The other ships are all fairly well rounded and tend to function very well. All the ships function well. The Invincible is just way out of proportion. It is just not as powerful as it should be for its size because it's super old. And of course it's generic, so it not supposed to have a ton of power. Other ships of the faction, like I said, are all available to other factions at some point. So that's the point. This faction can have ships from any faction, so you can build up your fleet of, say, you want a super star destroyer, but you want to escort it with hammerheads. You can do that. It adds a lot of customization to the game, and I actually have never seen a mechanic like this in any other mod, with the exception of like Thrawn's Revenge and stuff obviously has influence units, but being able to build your own faction in game without coding knowledge from the ground up, I think is a pretty cool mechanic. And again, I have not seen that exact set of stuff anywhere else in the Empire War mod community. I'm not patting myself on the back here, I'm just saying I found something I thought people would think was cool, and I implemented it to the mod. This is one of the other changes that are coming to the mod. This is not the factions are definitely the biggest thing, but there are also a couple other changes coming, such as the fact that battles can be much larger now with a much larger population cap, and of course the factions themselves, which is going to be very cool. And I think that a lot of people will enjoy the new factions, especially the one that let you build it up entirely of your own accord. As you can see, I have taken Kuat here, and additionally, after taking Kuat, I now have access to new ground structures. Aside from the ship market, the mercenary barracks, and the officer academy, we also have the Kuat Drive Yards Cruiser Office, the KDY Capital Office, the KDY Dreadnought Office, and Rathana Heavy Engineering. Now, of course, these are all fillers. These haven't been finished yet, but essentially, these structures will give you access to different tiers of capital ships, and in Rathana's case, ground vehicles. So, for instance, say I want capital ships, cruisers, and when I get more money, cruisers and land units. Okay, so I was trying to show you guys this, and then just the Empire just started attacking me. Like, between these two planets, I just got massacred. But as I said, the Invincible class heavy cruisers are not that tough, and I've already lost Corellia in space. But as I showed you, with the Kuat Drive, there's no icons yet, but the Kuat Drive Yards Cruiser add-on and Capital Ship add-ons have allowed me to build Acclamators, Victory Star Destroyers, Interdictor Cruisers, Star Destroyers, Tectors, Dominators, and Implacables, which these were added in the last version. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but that's what it looks like. And on the land, we have the Rathana Heavy Engineering subsidiary of Kuat Drive Yards, which allows me to build land units like the AT-AT. Now, this is a huge buff in later stages of the game, especially when you control Kuat. This allows you to build special units, and of course, this will happen on basically any planet you capture. So, like I said, although I've lost my planet where I used to be building my ships, I can now build ships here, which is going to be very, very helpful. and they left for some reason. Oh, nope, they're back. Okay. So they're going to be like this. But that's the point. This is pretty much just how it works. And depending on what structures you have built on the planet, this also dictates, again, what units you can build. I know this teaser is running a bit long, and I'm going to end it here, but just a little sneak peek of what's coming in the next version of R3D2 Forces of Corruption, and I'm trying to get you guys hyped, because I know you guys intend to enjoy this sort of thing. I'll see you guys in the next one.